Hello and welcome to PM Express, the London edition. And as I've promised you, exciting interviews. Folks, I'm here at the Kennington Business Park, right in the heart of South London, to talk to two wonderful Ghanaians who are doing marvelous. Indeed, if you look at their office space, it tells you they mean business. But these are wonderful Ghanaians who could have been home with all this brain drain business we're talking about. I'm here to find out what challenges they have in their business and why aren't they coming home to settle. And what are the challenges that they find themselves being black? Does it make a difference? Or indeed, does the system overlook their skin color? One is an engineer, one is an entrepreneur setting up the FM station. And this is going to be one of those interesting interviews. Guys, you're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Folks, right after the break, I am talking to my guest and I will introduce them. Stay tuned. Hello and welcome back. As I said, I am here to talk to, let me introduce, from my immediate left is Frank A, capital A Davis. Frank, you're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you. And then my far left is David Kluche. Now, these boys are doing fantastic. They are part of the brain drain back home. Well, we're going to find out from them how comfortable they are and if indeed they're going to come back home. Well, Frank.
Yes, sir.
Nice office space.
Yeah.
Very beautiful. Very beautiful. Means you mean business. But let's start with you. I mean, how long have you Frank is the owner of Osei Radio and also CEO of VM Magazine. So obviously we talked to him about that. How long have you started your radio?
The radio is less than a year old.
Okay.
And the magazine about 2 years old.
2 years old.
Yeah.
So then I want to go back because in this country everything they want to give you 3 years record. Everything they used to give you 3 years record.
Yeah.
Yeah. So before the radio and the magazine, what were you doing?
I was in insurance a little bit. I worked for American Life Insurance for some years. Then I moved on to do private business consultation, advising people to go into business. From there, I moved on to work with Nationwide Equipment, a US-based company. And what I was doing was modeling and looking into cases for them. Ed Kotensky, who has raised funds into a lot of banks in Nigeria and Ghana, is my boss, so I still work closely with him. 2007, I moved on to set up another business, which went until the misfortune happened into solar equipment. From there, I started doing again business consultation until last 2 years. I decided to move into the media area by starting with the VM magazine. It's an inspirational Christian magazine, but we touch on different things.
We'll talk about the magazine.
And so that in the short is how we've come.
That's a summary of the CV. Now David is a bit, I think he's lost touch with Ghana because Ghana engineers wear suit and tie. See, Ghana, if they say you're an engineer, you should be suit, tie. But here is David, a full-time engineer, dressed down. But I guess maybe that's what engineers should do. You should be on the field. Yeah. But David, you are what, a rail engineer, or what do you do?
Basically, I'm into geotechnical engineering, but it cuts across the construction industry. It cuts across mining, built environment, and then going to rails and roads because we do pavement design, we do rails, construction, and it cuts across.
So what do you do? Like test the soil or test the stone? Or
yeah, we do. Yes, we do. Geotech basically has to do with foundation design. Every structure you put up in this part of the world, the soil needs to be tested, the ground needs to be assessed, such that you make sure that the structure that you are about to impose on the soil is able to sustain it and keep it from crumbling. So, but recently I've become more attached to the rail sector, where we go do assets inspections and management and for a major company through a major company for network rail.
How did you get into that? I mean, haven't met another Ghanaian who does soil testing here. So, I mean, how did you get into that field?
Basically, I did, like I said, I did mining engineering back home in Ghana.
Okay.
Then decided to come. I was so much interested in soil and rock mechanics, so I decided to come over to the UK to do my master's. So I did my master's in University of Portsmouth, where I did ground investigations and assessment, which basically is geotechnical engineering. Then when I completed, I worked for a firm for close to 6 years as a geotechnical engineer. And then I decided to move on. I think what has helped me mainly is that I've worked in the industry for long and I know my way around, and having made contacts within the industry, it's easy to start on your own from then on. I don't think it would have been that easier to set up on my own if I hadn't worked for a major company before deciding to move on to do my own thing.
Frank, I mean, being Ghanaian, being black, has it hindered you in your process to becoming
I would say yes and no. Yes, in the sense that one, our color, whether we like it or not, I don't want to use the race card, but there are certain areas when you go and start asking certain questions or even contract, adverts, our area is more for into adverts. There are a lot of questions because of the track record that those who have been into it have left. We've heard stories about people starting, taking money and folding up and going. So basically, that kind of lack of trust towards us. So that has been one of the major barriers trying to get adverts into this. The other thing is this country is not ours. The way you're able to move in Ghana, you cannot move over here. There are a lot of, I'm not saying we should break the laws, but there are a lot of legal implications. Whatever you do, you have to watch your back. And again, the network of support that you get, probably families. I mean, assuming if I'm in Ghana and I'm broke, I can run and sleep with my auntie or my friend. Over here, it's not going to be like that. And therefore, you constantly are basically pressured, competing with business needs and personal needs. It's not an easy thing to actually bring together. And that's one of the challenges. Finance, yeah, the banks are there to support you, but again, you have to make a strong case. You have to make a strong case for them to support you. But so far, I would say, I mean, you need to know exactly what you want to do. You need to have passion for what you're doing, and you need to have a goal where you want to go to. It hasn't been easy, and it's still not easy, but we know where we want to get to, and we know challenges will come.
David, let me bring you in here. Now, Frank mentioned about bringing a strong case to go and see your finances and everything. But there's you complaining about systems. I mean, we are from Ghana. We are not complaining about systems. You at least have some systems in place. I mean, how advantageous is it to you in terms of doing business with systems being in place?
It's highly advantageous. I mean, I wouldn't probably be working on my own if there wasn't any system in place to rigorously regulate, say, the rail sector, where I think I'm currently employed in. It's everything boils down to regulations. Once there are systems in place to check big businesses and to make sure that they do what is right, then it has a trickle-down effect. What they have to do, they may not have their expertise in-house. They have to go out there to get their expertise, and because if they don't do that, they get punished. And I'm sure I don't have to mention any company, but we've heard in the news some companies being fined colossal amounts of money for not following the regulations. And so
once they were fined, and you can mention it, it's already gone through court, then it's not like you are accusing them. Yeah, so give me the names and how much.
I mean, we've had Network Rail being fined close to about £14 million recently for trains not running on time. And
no, repeat that. They got fined 14 million for what?
for trains not running on time.
Did you hear that?
And basically, the work we do impacts their work as well. So if, say, they have engineering works going on, and the engineering works is not done, and it's not safe for them to run trains, they will not start running trains until the engineering works is finished. So it's really very, in terms of time, they are constantly pressured to meet targets and to get things done on time. But coming back to what Frank said, especially with regards to coming against resistances in setting up on your own and having contracts to do and stuff like that, I may say in my industry, I should say I'm really fortunate, because I wouldn't have started on my own had it not been for the business manager of the company I was seconded to. He told me, look, you are better off on your own. A white man, he said, David, you are better off on your own. Set up and we'll give you contracts to do. And I mean, I've started with them, and even the company that I left called me recently wanting to give me a contract to do for them. So it's really, it basically depends on the area in which you are and what you are actually doing in that area.
I mean, would you advise younger Ghanaians to go into this geotech field that you're in?
Yes, I mean, I seriously feel for those of my colleagues who did geotech back home, because we have regulations. I was really taken aback when I attended a training session for, I think, retaining wall design, and the trainer just put on the screen the countries that have actually adopted the Euro code for retaining wall design. I saw Ghana. I said, wow. So we have adopted it, but when you go back home, we don't follow the codes, the design codes that we have actually adopted. And regulations are not in place to rigorously monitor the sector. So people who go in to do geotech may end up working in the mining sector, but the construction industry, I hardly hear of soil testing and doing proper design work.
The big ones like the big high-rise coming up, they do, but I doubt if you're putting up a 2-bedroom house in Kaswa, you will call anybody to do it.
Yes.
But you need a geotech for that. You probably don't.
You probably don't, but you may need an input in terms of a geoenvironmental engineer as well as a geotech engineer.
Sometimes, I mean, where I live, I get a lot of dump coming up. Would that fall under your jurisdiction?
It does, because I mean, you have to know the groundwater level when you are putting up buildings. If the groundwater level is so high, it means at the least rainfall, you have it rising more. So that goes through your walls. So what you need is actually to put a barrier in place to stop the water from rising. So if a geotech engineer comes in, he sinks his borehole, then he takes the water level, he will advise you the foundation to put in, whether you should raise your foundation more to prevent even flooding. So all these things goes into it, but we tend to ignore all these aspects of the construction that go on back home, and that, for me, I think, is depriving a lot of graduates from getting employed and setting up on their own, because we have all these regulations there that is supposed to regulate the sector, but once it's not being enforced, they don't have work.
I see. Well, when I come back, we're going to talk about VM magazines, and I'm looking at how good print quality that they've managed to do, and guess what? They give it out for free. Do they want to make money or do they want to lose money? Stay tuned, I'm coming. Well, hello and welcome back. Now, before the break, I told you about the VYM magazine, which Frank is the CEO. Now, it's a good quality magazine, very well printed, very Christian based, but they give it out for free. And so I'm here to find out if he's on a collusion course, or what's the strategy? What's the strategy about it? But before I even go, what's VYM?
VYN actually means
VYN.
Vineyard News Vineyard News.
Vineyard
Actually, when we
News.
wanted to start it, the name Vineyard keep on coming. But we've heard of Hosanna Music of USA. Hosanna Music. They've actually patented a lot about vineyard. So we didn't want to get into any legal issue. So my lawyer advised that if we can abbreviate it, that would be best. So we chose VYN, which to me so far has worked. You can pronounce it vine. So the VY means vineyard.
Okay.
Then the N is actually news.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's it.
Now, what's the strategy in printing out such a beautiful magazine, and then tell everybody, come and take one for free?
Right. One, it has to come out of passion, and one passion is to help one spread the gospel, and also try to make a living out of this and create jobs in also. Now, I'm going to say this all the same. They say if you want to hide something from a black man, what do?
Put it in a book, yeah?
Put it in a book. So, and in this country especially, you see people buy magazines. Women will buy magazines that deals with gossip, fashion. The upper class will buy magazines that deal with business like the time and others. So when you're looking at the middle class and you want to give them a magazine, you're looking at something that will favorably compete with the church newsletters, because almost all the churches print magazines anyway. So if you start selling something to them in the church, the pastor would like to do his business out of what you're doing. So let's give it a free. Get good stories over there. Get quality stuff over there. And let people have it for free. And then invite advertisers to support what you're doing. And that's a business model we're doing.
So the advertisers pay to come in?
Yeah, the advertisers pay to come in. So you see Stanbic in, and this one for instance. There's another company, Mark Events in Ghana. I mean, they are in, and other companies are in, and they basically support the issue.
And what's the response so far?
I tell you what, we print 200,000 copies of this every 2 months. The cost is enormous. I don't want to mention figures over here, but we don't struggle to distribute them. When you go to an event and you distribute magazines, you want to find out after the people have left how many copies you get on the floor. You hardly will see one copy being left. I'll give you a classic example. I went to KFC in Brixton, and apparently I forgot my phone. You know, our magazine, our designing office is in Brixton. I went back trying to find out whether I left my phone over there, and the manager asked me, prove that it's your phone. So I brought out my business card, and he then decided to call the number on it to find out if it's actually mine. And it was my phone actually. He said, what is mine? I said, it's a magazine. Can you give me a copy of the magazine? So I went back to my car, brought about 10 copies of the magazine. I was about giving it to the manager. Everybody over there started struggling for it. I brought 50 copies within 10 minutes, all gone. So the demand for the magazine is there. We distributed mainly to the Afro-Caribbean community. One, because our study shows that the Afro-Caribbean community, the Christian community, is growing at about 14% per annum. Lewisham, about 72 churches in Lewisham alone. Every month in this country, about 2 new churches open.
Really?
Yes. So we took it that's a very solid. If you want to reach the population that we're targeting, there's no other place to read them than in the churches. In the churches. So yeah, that's what informed our decision.
Okay.
My editor, which is Professor Jotofe, all supported what we're doing. We went through the analysis, and we thought, yeah, that was the best way to go.
Now, how do you get content? Because
we actually have writers. We actually have contributors all the way. We have contributors from Ghana. Professor Kwatin, for instance, is one of our contributors. If you look at the articles, I mean, he's written a lot. He's in Ghana. I mean, he contributes to these magazines a lot. For instance, Church Hijack. I mean, it's one article that he wrote. We have Larry of Canada who writes to us.
Maybe I just sending you scripts of that.
Yeah, I mean,
opinion,
honestly,
you know?
we actually welcome scripts. So we have writers from Canada, Zambia, South Africa, US. Actually, the edition that you're seeing, which is the one which is, this is, he's in Nigeria. Obviously, he lives over here, but about 70% of the articles over here are from the US.
How about your system in terms of your printing, your delivery, and everything? Any challenges in there?
There are challenges, of course. Like I said, the issue of cost implication in whatever we do. To print a magazine of this quality, you require a lot of backing, a lot of money, and that has been a big issue to us. Now, when it comes to distributing, because the magazines are obviously free, we still post it to people freely. I mean, although it's a business model, it will get to a point where people start contributing towards the postage, and so delivering it to people. And when people subscribe, you cannot say you're not sending it to them. Okay. And so, I mean, you have to be hiring cars, traveling, or
let's move on to Osei, sir.
Okay.
Now, there are lots of FM stations. So what informed you to go to, a geotech man? He looked at the scene and said, look, there aren't enough geotech people, let me hit it. So what informed you going into Osei Radio?
Yeah, although I didn't study anything about media, I've been so passionate about media work. And I've got involved with a lot of radio activities over a period of time. You listen to radio in this country, and sometimes you say, we are in a country where we can do better. The kind of arguments that goes on those radio stations is all about NDC, MPP, and nothing much to talk about.
Well, you have NDC, MPP problem here too.
It's worse. You just have to tune into some of the radio stations and.
But NDC, MPP, they don't leave us alone, eh?
No.
I'm sure even if we go to the moon, they'll follow us.
They followed us over here, and sometimes even the language that is used on those, I think it shouldn't be so. So we decided to come out with a station called Osei Radio. We know it's going to face a lot of competition. Also, we decided to brand it differently from others. About 80-90% of the station in the diaspora all go around our country. So we decided to take a line that is more of 85% English and about 15% other languages tree. And so far, I must say, Nana, it's been working well. The numbers we put, we had a target up. By the first 12 months, we should have a set number of constant listeners because we can track it from our radar and all that. I tell you, within the first 4 months of operation, we've gone above that by 400%. So that tells me that we're doing something good. And I thank God I have excellent staff. The experience that they bring on board. There are certain things you cannot do on our station. There are certain language we warn you. If you start it, we cut you off. We don't take it. Radio is, I look at it as an entertainment tool. We have to inform, we have to educate, and we have to entertain. If radio is there to divide, then we don't want to know. We've set out the radio to be able to bring people together. You ask NDC, you ask MPP, you ask CPP, you ask PPP. We even have program slots for them. And they will tell you, Osei is a station that, for now, what we've shown them is something that they are actually happy with, and there are lots of programs that we've not reached even 30% of what we want to offer the public yet, because we want to go it gradually, and so far, to be honest with you, I mean, we're happy with where we're going.
Let me bring David in here. Dave, now, you see, you are an engineer, and from what you do, I mean, if you do rail, it means that, you're not going to do rail at the back of your house. They could call you to go do rail anywhere. And you, being in the UK, normally don't have the support we have back home, where grandma is just round the corner, Akosia, Amma, is round the corner, and even if she is, she's also working.
True.
So how do you juggle work and pick kids from school and manage home, and because you have to do that? How do you do that?
Yeah, it's kind of challenging, but we have my kids go to after school club. Okay. And so drop them off in the morning. Around 8:30, and then go to work. The after school club attendants pick them from their main school to a different school where they hold this after school business thing. And so after 6 o'clock, by 6 o'clock, I'm back and take them back home. Or my wife goes to pick them up. But because my wife is about to start a university program as well, we intend to we have a little one now. The third and the last.
You can't have the Shabbat big last.
I'll give a copy of this to your wife. I'll give a copy to your wife.
She might not be happy with you.
Yeah, so she's going into a daycare for 3 days with her for a week, which is not cheap here in this country. But that is how we go, we manage around it. It's not easy without the family support.
So basically you have between, say, 8 in the morning and 6 in the evening, you have to finish your day's work.
Yes. Sometimes I do finish work by 3. I mean, in the winter, I'll not be on track till 4 o'clock. By 3:30, I'm off track. Back in my car. It gets dark early, and so back in my van, off I go, and I'm able to pick them up on time. But the other challenging bit is the support back home when the kids come back home. Then you have to look through their book bags and do assignments with them and stuff like that. It's really challenging.
After you were so tired.
Yes, you have to, because the school will be on your case if you don't. So you have to do it. You have no choice.
Do you have the same challenge, or are you more flexible?
I tell you what, radio, as you know, I mean, it's like a baby. And you're going to wake up around 5. Every morning, 5 o'clock, I have to get up. Whether I sleep at 3 a.m. or not, I have to wake up, because we have pastors that come here, you need to monitor. Thank God, technology is that I could actually log on to the station, do whatever I want to do on the station, even from my bedroom. So I start in the morning, and the earliest I can get to go to bed is about 12 o'clock. I have to look after the studio, go back to the magazine's office, ensure that, I mean, everything is going right, because at the end of the day, it goes wrong, it's on your neck, and I haven't pumped so much of your everything to it. You don't want it to anything wrong to so you need to actually, but time is, I was telling someone that I think the 24 hours, God should help us extend it to 48 hours. Because the 24 hours is no more enough. And I tell you, it's no more enough. Because you take it, before you even drive from one location to another, traffic and other things, the 24 hours is not enough. So
God should see exactly.
God should look at.
I'm going to take a break here.
Consider us and give us 48 hours.
I'll take a break. When I come back, I want to find out what their frustrations are about Ghana. Now that they've got all their systems working and everything is in place, what are their frustrations back home, and what will make them say, yes, that's it, I'm going home. Stay tuned. Your prices, because I have to multiply everything by 6.
You see?
Yeah, I have to multiply everything by 6.
Don't worry.
So, got a plate of kinky, and it was, 5 cedis. So if you £5,
times
multiply 6, that's a 30 bowl of kinky. That's a very expensive bowl of kinky. Well, folks, welcome back to the second segment of the interview. But this time, I want to find out from my brothers what really frustrates them about Ghana. I mean, they've tested a bit of both worlds. They have a bit of your NDC, MPP, NDC going on here and everything. Let me start with you, David. I mean, what's the one thing which just think?
It's what gets my juices flowing is actually the lack of enforcement of rules and regulations back home. And the fact that if somebody falls foul of the law, instead of throwing all the books at the person is let go. And usually, I think the politicians largely get away with proverbially murder. And the small fly is actually normally killed with a sledgehammer, which gets me really mad.
Tell me a story about that. They were doing a roundup somewhere in Jamestown.
Okay.
And where they were doing the roundup, there was a guy there. Now this guy, according to the police, right, there was one really notorious armed robber, and they couldn't apprehend him. So he came and supposedly put pepper spray on the armed robber so that the police could apprehend him. And anyway, when they did the swoop, they took him as well, and he was in remand for 14 years before they realized that he wasn't part of the
14
gang.
years.
Oh, I think that story was on Joy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I heard the guy interviewed on Joy live. Yes.
14 years remand, no trial.
But then the government is now, acting that anybody after 5 years should be released, which I think is long overdue. Yeah.
You know, it's really frustrating. You take the case of the Melcombe disaster, for example.
Ah, that's your field.
Yes. You know, and it looks as if we've not learned anything from that disaster. We were promised, people will be punished and everything. I understand the case is still in court, but I think to get people doing the right thing, such cases should constantly be in the public eye, and the public should know every step of the way what is going on with the case. But if we don't hear anything, others go to sleep. They do carry on as business as usual. And it frustrates me because I think the AME have a building inspection division, and they should be doing more. And to make sure that all these constructions...
I'm taking you home to go and do the AMA building inspection. That's a brain drain on its own. He has to go home to go and help. Now, Frank, you are in the firing line just like me. So you're in the media, so you have to read the papers and current affairs. What gets you going?
Then I tell you what, the biggest of all the biggest thing I think is our attitude towards work. The individual attitudes. That is a bigger problem. I used to have a business in Ghana. Before I completely gone, I had a business which I ran from 1998 to 2001. It was a successful business. I had about 120 people working for me. As soon as I left the country, gave the business to a manager to me, within 1 year the business went down. Now, in 2007, I started something. I employed certain people who were working, and I sent a mystery shopper. When the person went there, they were playing card, SPA, solitaire on computer. Twice, I had to close the business down because you are being paid, right? But you get to work, a customer even comes into the shop, and your attention was on how to move the next, card. For me, it was just a turn off, and I had to just shut the business down. We've also got to a point where sometimes we're quick to blame the politicians when the civil servants and the public servants are actually those who are causing the harm. You go to an office, a secretary will move from one desk to another, they want to take something. And it's all boiled down to our attitude towards work, our sense of patriotism. People think that if I'm doing it, it's government work, and therefore I can do it anyhow and get my salary and go away. For me, it is something that is actually killing the nation. We're quick to also lay blame. Yes, government can create more opportunities. The government will have to, more than double up what they are doing. But as a people, I think we need to start changing our attitude towards work. David will always say, David is a friend, he will always tell you that we have to start it from the grassroots, the basic level. So even our schools now, we have something that teaches the children, the sense of patriotism, attitude towards work, so that when they grow up with it. Because when you take most of companies collapse, not because the business models are not good, but because of the people who are working in it. And I always say, if you bring Jesus to come around the country, unless the people start reforming and renewing their mind, nothing is going to work.
Talking about children, because I know, David, you've got kids and they go to school. And so you know our schooling system there and our schooling system here. What advantages do you think your kids are getting here which they would have missed on the other side of the fence?
Well, I think the advantages of having kids school in this country is enormous. I wouldn't say it's perfect, but I mean compared to what we have back home, because I went through the system there myself. There is more parents and teacher engagement. It is the child is not taken to school and left for the school to train and bring up by itself, but it is actually a partnership between the school.
You have to play a role.
You have to play a role, because when my kids go to school in the morning, they come back, they always have a record book in their bag. So they are given a storybook, they come back with a storybook. You, the parents, if the child doesn't know how to read, you, the parent, have to read to the child. Like my little girl, she is just starting foundation. So she comes home with a book. I have to read to her, and I have to record and sign and date as well in the record book.
Okay,
So
now, you see, if you went to one of the bourgeois schools in Ghana, you'll probably do that. So I want to find out if, let's say, your child is in London Morning Star or London GIS or London, bourgeois, or it's your average school that anybody can go.
Oh, you mean like the quality of school?
The equivalent of your child's school here in Ghana, what would you say? Would you say your son is in GIS here or is in, Morning Star here?
I would say, I mean, it has to be up there with one of the, the best.
Is he in a private school?
No, he's not in a private school. He's in a Catholic school. And the
Catholic
Catholic faith schools are
always good.
Yeah, and where we are, we live
I'm trying to find a comparison in Ghana. What if your school is in Ghana? Not the standards, but I mean, so it would have been a school where, so quote unquote, Saito.
Okay.
Ghana, because it's a public school where everyone can attend.
I'll say it's one of the top private. It would be equivalent to one of the top private schools.
All those in the public sector.
All those in the public sector.
Yeah.
Okay.
It should be right up there with the private schools.
Okay. Okay. And there's that engagement.
There's serious engagement.
I mean, Frank, what's your attitude? Because I mean, we are being told that 72% couldn't make a pass mark to go to the tertiary education, but it's not as bad because last year was 81%. So hooray! What are the pass rates here, and how are the kids doing in the examinations?
The pass rates over here are actually better than what we have in Ghana. That 72, I read into that story. It's not something we should jubilate about. We should actually, as a nation, look at it as an indictment on all of us. But if you also have to look at where we're coming from, then you realize that we actually making progress. But the question is, can we do more than that? Nana, I'll give you an example. In this country, the remotest of all the remotest villages can boast of access to electricity. They have roads. Their children will not go and sit on the floor to study. When the rain is coming, their children are not going to be rushing home. So at least the basic of all the basic amenities, they got them. You go to Ghana, you go past certain areas, and even Bomituo, which even once the people is studying with it, they inhaling the fume, resulting in the potential, the possibility of them having lung cancer even in the future. The parent is crying, their kerosene is finishing, and therefore, you see, there's a vast gap between the facility the urban areas will have in Ghana and the villages. And therefore, when you look at that 72% of whatever, that are not able to make grades into the secondary, you also have to sit back and say, how do you disaggregate all these various, parts of the country? These 72, where are they coming from? Are they coming from the urban areas? Are they coming from the well-to-do schools? What is their background? Their parents, what is their background? Which school do they go to in the basic school? The figure will not tell the whole story on its own. But I believe we, as policymakers, we need to go down, drive down where the bulk of that is coming from, and then begin to do and build up from the grassroots. That's the only way we're going to be able to make it.
Dave, would you, when you hear all these stories, does it make you say, oh, forget it, man, I'm not going back home, I must just stay and
No, man.
Let me start with Dave and I'll come to you.
No.
What gets to you when you hear all these, stories?
Yeah, I've always wanted to, go back home. But
yeah, I may need you to come and check his status. I'm going to take his name.
We'll tell the Cubana boys.
Yeah, we'll tell his name. Let's round up. Let me see. What gets you?
I've always wanted to go back home, but the system, coming from the UK, where largely you have systems functioning, and you go back home. You want to do like change over a driver's license, simple basic thing, and somebody wants you to pay bribe. I said, well, I'm not paying bribe. So I came back. I didn't do it. So I asked myself, even if simple driver's license and I have to pay bribe to somebody to get it done, then what else can I do without paying bribe? So to be honest with you, when I came back in 2008, I was really fired up to say, oh no, I have to come back. But now that desire has really waned, and
you need to get it all back up.
Yes, I have to see certain changes to actually get that back up
well,
again.
You need to come and do the change, Frank.
To be honest with you, I'm fired up to go back to Ghana.
That's the spirit. That's the spirit.
I do believe that there are challenges over there, but I can tell you that Ghana is a land of opportunities. If we can send out the attitude. You take a typical Ghanaian, the attitude they have towards work over there. If we can have the same attitude towards work in Ghana, I think Ghana will be fantastic. I want to go back. I'm already planning ahead. I want to go back to Ghana. And very soon you see me in Ghana.
Well,
very soon you see me in Ghana.
We're waiting for you.
Partially for the radio, also partially for the magazine, because the magazine we distribute copies in Ghana, we distribute copies in Nigeria, US and Canada as well. And we're looking at opening an office permanently in Ghana too. So,
if you're watching and you're looking at want a job in employing with good work attitude, don't sit there and play solitaire. Get in touch with me and I'll link you to Frank. Folks, this is a lineup, trying to find out what our brothers away are doing, indeed, how well they are doing, and if they are going to come back. We've always been complaining about brain drain, and we're trying to find out what is it that is keeping them away from home. And apparently it's our attitude towards work and all that stuff. So we're going to change. We promise them we're going to change so they come back. Guys, thank you very much
for
granting me your interview in this wonderful plush office. Ghanaians,
you see? That's why they'll see this radio.
Tomorrow we'll be back to do it all over again. Thanks for watching.